The desert was never supposed to be this quiet. Not even at night. There was always wind sweeping across the sand, rattling dry brush, or whispering through ironwood trees. But tonight, as Daniel Hunt drove down the lonely Arizona highway, it felt as if the entire world had stopped breathing. His truck headlights cut a narrow path through the darkness, illuminating only sand, scattered rocks, and endless stretches of nothing. His gas tank was embarrassingly low, something he blamed on the diner he'd stopped at far too long. He kept glancing at the gauge, hoping it would magically rise. It did, in single quotes. The radio crackled with static. Every station, even AM. He shut it off. Instead, he opened the window slightly. A strange, metallic scent drifted into the truck like iron heated on a stove, mixed with something rotten. It sat thick in the air, heavy enough to taste. He rolled the window back up. There were no towns for nearly 50 miles. No houses, no lights. Just the desert wide, black, an ancient dot, and something else. He first noticed it when he passed a broken down road sign that had deep claw marks carved across it. Not scratches, not vandalism, claw marks. For long grooves that had torn straight through the rusted metal like it was butter. He slowed down. His mind tried offering explanations. Teens, maybe. A prank? Some animal? But no animal he knew could slice metal like that dot he drove on, trying not to think about it. But the silence pressed harder. Even the truck engine sounded muffled, as if the desert was swallowing its noise. 20 minutes later, his headlights caught something lying across the road. At first he thought it was an animal, a coyote maybe, until he got closer. It was a deer, torn in half. Not eaten, not mauled, torn. The front half lay on the left side of the highway. The back half was thrown yards away, like someone had ripped it apart with bare hands and tossed the pieces. Daniel's stomach curled. He veered around the carcass and kept driving. But the unease crawled deeper under his skin. Something out here had strength no desert predator should have. The highway stretched ahead endlessly, a ribbon of faded asphalt cutting through black nothingness. The sky was moonless, starless, and impossibly dark, as if a giant shadow was covering it. A strange tapping noise echoed from the roof of his truck. He froze. Tap, tap, tap. Like long fingernails. Or claws. He stared through the windshield, breathing slow, trying to convince himself it was just sand or a loose branch. There were no trees anywhere near him. The tapping got louder. He swallowed hard and pressed his foot on the gas. The truck jerked forward, engine growling, but the taps continued, then slid as if something was crawling across the roof toward the driver's side. He didn't look. Couldn't look. When he hit 70 miles per hour, the tapping suddenly stopped. He kept driving until his hands stopped shaking enough to breathe normally again. Every instinct told him to turn around, but the desert behind him looked even darker, as if something waited there. The highway, at least, gave him the illusion of direction. 10 minutes later, his truck sputtered. Daniel's heart dropped. No, not now, come on. The engine coughed, wheezed, and died. He coasted onto the sandy shoulder of the road. The engine clicked as it cooled. The desert swallowed all sound again. Complete, unnatural silence. He tried restarting the truck. Nothing. He checked his phone. No signal. He rested his head against the steering wheel. Teeth clenched. He'd dealt with breakdowns before, but never in a place that felt so wrong. He grabbed his flashlight, stepped out of the truck, and the cold night air slapped him across the face. He expected desert nights to be cool, but this was freezing, almost winter-like. He shined his light under the hood. Everything looked normal. No leaks, no broken belts, nothing obvious. And yet the truck was dead. A soft crunch echoed behind him. A footstep. Daniel spun around, pointing the flashlight into the darkness. Its beam cut through the air and landed on nothing. Just sand. He exhaled shakily, then another crunch. This time to his left, he turned quickly, but again found nothing. He backed toward the truck door. Another crunch. This one was closer. He scanned the desert with the flashlight, sweeping slowly. His light caught a patch of disturbed sand footprints. Not animal tracks. Footprints nearly twice the size of his own. Deep, heavy impressions, spread far apart, like whatever made them had an unnaturally long stride. The prints circled the truck dot, and they were fresh. Okay, he whispered to himself. Voice trembling. Get inside. Lock the door. Stay calm. He climbed into the truck quickly and locked all four doors. The moment he sat down, he realized he could still smell that metallic, iron-like scent again. Stronger now. It clung to the air like a living thing. He turned his flashlight toward the windshield. Something moved in the beam. Not clearly. Not fully. Just a shape, tall and thin, sliding just outside the range of the light. The edges of its outline didn't look natural to sharp, to distorted. As if its limbs bent in ways human limbs shouldn't dot, it stopped directly in front of the truck. Daniel froze, barely breathing. The shape leaned closer, its massive silhouette filling the windshield. Its head tilted slowly, studying him. Only then did its eyes appear to pale. Milky white circles that reflected the flashlight like the eyes of something that lived underground for far too long. Daniel's pulse hammered against his ribs. The creature stepped closer, and the sand beneath it didn't crunch anymore. It moved silently, to silently dot its hand, if it could be called a hand, pressed against the hood of the truck. Long, skeletal fingers curled across the metal. The headlights flickered as its shadow passed over them. Daniel gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The creature lifted its head slowly, its eyeless gaze locking onto him through the glass. Then it smiled. Not a human smile. A long, unnatural tear of a grin spreading impossibly wide, stretching, ripping the skin around its mouth as it revealed jagged, uneven rows of teeth. Daniel couldn't scream. He couldn't move. He could only stare as the creature's fingers drummed across the hood, tapping lightly. The same tapping he had heard on the roof earlier. It knew he was alone, and it wasn't leaving. The creature's smile lingered long after it slipped back into the darkness. Daniel sat motionless in the truck, his breath shallow and uneven. The desert outside was pitch black again, as if the thing had swallowed the light with it. His heartbeat thudded painfully in his chest, each pulse loud enough to echo inside his skull. He kept the flashlight pointed at the windshield, but the beam now exposed nothing, only swirling dust and empty darkness. He didn't know if that made him safer or more terrified. Minutes passed, or maybe it was an hour. Time felt distorted, stretched thin by fear. Then his truck lurched. Not violently, not like an attack, more like something brushed against it. A slow, gentle scrape along the side panel. Daniel dug his nails into the steering wheel. The scrape moved toward the driver's window, a light dragging sound, as if a set of claws were tracing the metal. He turned the flashlight toward the window, but the beam reflected off the glass too much to see. The scraping stopped. Silence settled again. Then the creature whispered. It came from directly outside the window, soft, raspy, barely audible, like the voice of someone whose lungs had never breathed real air. Daniel didn't understand the words. They were broken, mangled, almost reversed, like something trying to mimic human speech, but getting it horribly wrong. He pressed himself back into his seat, shaking, unable to process the sounds. The whispering grew low and throaty, then sharp, then slow again, as if the creature was experimenting with vocal cords that weren't meant for speaking. Then it tapped the glass dot just once, a single, deliberate knock. Daniel flinched so hard the flashlight slipped from his hand and landed on the passenger seat. The beam pointed upward now, casting eerie shadows across the truck ceiling. He couldn't stay. Not locked in a metal coffin with whatever this thing was circling him. He needed to escape. But where could he go? There was nothing, no towns, no gas stations, no houses for miles. Just open desert. But open desert was better than staying here. He grabbed the flashlight, hands trembling, and looked toward the passenger side. The thing wasn't visible. He took one deep breath, then unlocked the door and bolted. He sprinted into the darkness, away from the highway, away from the truck. The desert air burned his lungs as he ran. Sand shifted under his boots with every step. He didn't dare look back. If he looked, he would freeze. And if he froze, he knew he would die. The moonless sky provided almost no light. But his flashlight cut a frenzied path in front of him. Every shadow looked like a claw. Every bush looked like a crouching figure. His ears strained for any sound, any sign of pursuit. At first, there was nothing behind him, just his own ragged breaths. Then he heard it, a second pair of footsteps, but they didn't sound like human steps. They were heavier, spaced farther apart. The ground trembled slightly with each one. Daniel sprinted harder. He didn't know where he was going. The desert seemed endless in every direction, but he saw something flicker far ahead, a small, faint glow. Maybe a fire, maybe a house, or maybe he was hallucinating. But it was all he had. He ran toward it. Behind him, the creature let out a sound that could only be described as a warped exhale, like it was inhaling deeply through a shredded throat. The ground shook slightly with the force of the sound. Daniel pushed himself harder, muscles screaming. Every instinct in him yelled that he wasn't running fast enough. The glow ahead grew brighter. It wasn't a fire, it was a lamp. A porch light, a house, in the middle of nowhere. He stumbled toward it, hope crashing into him with dizzying force. As he reached the wooden steps, he pounded on the door. Please. Someone open up. Please. He heard movement inside, slow footsteps. The door creaked open, and a man's voice whispered through the gap. You shouldn't have left the road. Daniel pushed his way inside before the man could say anything else. The house smelled like dust, old wood, and kerosene. Dim lanterns hung from hooks on the walls. For a moment, Daniel felt relief wash over him until he saw the men clearly. He looked exhausted, hollow-eyed, and terrified. Is it following you? The man whispered. Daniel tried to answer, but his breath was too ragged. He nodded. The man closed the door quickly, locked 3 deadbolts, then slid a steel bar across it. His hands shook violently. It always comes when the road goes quiet, the man said, voice trembling. Always. Daniel swallowed hard. What is it? The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped to the window and peeked through a slat in the shutters. It has a name, the man said quietly. But saying names gives things power out here. Daniel shivered. Why didn't you call for help? Why stay here? The man shook his head slowly. I didn't choose to stay. The lantern light flickered. A cold draft swept through the room, though the windows were sealed. Daniel's stomach twisted. The creature was near. The man closed the shutter quickly and blew out 2 lanterns, plunging half the room into darkness. Light attracts it, he whispered. Sound draws it closer, and once it marks you. He paused, swallowing hard. It doesn't stop. Daniel's heart pounded. What do you mean? Marks you. The man grabbed his wrist and held it up to the lantern. Daniel gasped. A thin, dark smear like a soot-like handprint stained the side of his forearm. It hadn't been there before. It touched you. The man whispered, "Now it won't let you go." A deep, resonant thud shook the house. Daniel nearly dropped the flashlight. The man's eyes widened with horror. "It found us." Another thud. This time on the roof. Dust showered down from the ceiling. The man grabbed Daniel's arm. "Don't look at its face. Whatever you do, don't look." The roof caved inward. Wood splintered. Boards snapped. A massive shadow crashed into the room, landing on all fours. Lantern light flickered across pale, elongated limbs. Its back arched unnaturally high, ribs pushing visibly under its skin. Its head twisted, cracking loudly as it rotated toward them. Daniel froze. The creature raised itself slowly, towering above them. Its smile stretched wider than before, tearing new lines across its cheeks. Thick, dark fluid dripped from its teeth. The man screamed. The creature moved impossibly fast. It struck the man first, dragging him upward with a screech of tearing flesh. The man's cry cut off instantly. Blood sprayed across the wall. Daniel stumbled backward, slipping on the wooden floor. The creature turned toward him. Those milky white eyes locked on him again. It stepped closer. Each movement unnatural, broken, yet horrifyingly controlled. Daniel crawled back until he hit the far wall. The creature lowered itself, bringing its face toward his, its breath cold and foul. Its mouth opened slowly, rows of jagged teeth parting. Then it whispered again. This time, Daniel understood one single word: run. He didn't hesitate. He threw himself toward the shattered back wall, sprinting into the night as the creature's roar shook the desert. Behind him, something massive began to chase, and the desert, once silent, now echoed with the sound of a predator closing in.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.